So let's say you're working with a patient who has really poor trunk control, stroke patient, listing to one side or another. I got to take a wipe intermission. Thank you. You all should have one of these. Okay, so if you're working alone, you're going to, more times than not, you're going to need a little bit of assistance with your patient on the transfer, right? Just to be safe. But once they're on the mat, buckle them in, right? We thought it was such a great idea, we did 2 of them, right? One for the chest, okay? So if they list one way or another, you can secure them. Now for some patients, they just have anxiety, okay? They're just nervous, they're just scared, and for good reason, because they've probably fallen and they're afraid to stand again, right? So what we need to do is to create an environment that is safe, that reduces their anxiety. Because if you have a patient that's not anxious, they're more apt to be cooperative with you. If they're not afraid, they're going to do what you ask them to do. So, by the way, there's these little nifty magnets here in the back. If you have a pacemaker, it won't alter your pacemaker. So there you have it. Now, wow, pretty cool, huh? Headrest. Little head support for someone's got a big long neck, and you got to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down. So far, it's been a great device so far for sit to stand, standing balance, core, mat work. It's all been great. But now, let's see, I'm going to need to have a volunteer. Just if you raise your hand. John, thank you for raising your hand. He was just.
The whole thing down. The whole thing down.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Come on, John. Okay, so. Come on, John. So what we're doing here, what I'm doing here is, you know, needless to say, after every patient, you got to wipe it down, right? So I've been the patient, so I wiped it down. By the way, it has a 500-pound lifting capacity. So we're not going to have a lot of problems. Now this nifty little cart here, and it's great, right? This cart is really nifty because now you don't have to throw the mats your stuff all over the place. You have a great place to hold it. What Chris is doing is he's inserting the chest plate. What this does is it changes the table into a standing frame. Now John is going to be encased in 4 inches of high density, really high density foam. Okay, so the procedure here is that we're going to lift John up so his feet are about 2 inches off the ground. And I can't stress this enough. It's really important to communicate with your patient, right? Some of them are hard of hearing. We're going to lift you up now, okay? And we're going to do it slowly, you know, little pulse-like actions. You know, I'm kind of making light of it, but it is so important that you communicate with the patient. It's so important to communicate with the so what we're going to do.
Who doesn't like Disney?
So now we've gotten John up into a standing position, and, yeah. And you'll notice that we didn't touch him. We didn't lay one hand on him to get him in a standing position. Not that we would want to touch him anyway, but here he goes, and now he's completely suspended off the ground. Okay, why is this important? Because if you have a non-weight-bearing patient, someone who hasn't stood in a long time,
I'm exercising.
Someone who hasn't stood in a long time, we can get them in a standing position without pain to their feet. We lifted a lady up in Toledo, 400 plus pounds, hasn't stood in 3 years, okay? 3 years. And when we got her up in the air, we only introduced enough weight bearing that she could tolerate without pain, right? So there you have it. There's the standing frame. Now, are you comfortable? Now, there are all kinds of... Embarrassed? That's okay. There are all kinds of degrees of support that this product will provide. Now, this is for, obviously, max assist, right? Because we've got him completely encased. He can't collapse. Can you try and fall for me right now? Just collapse. Just anyways. Okay. So he can't collapse. So we can
do better in a real-world situation at work.
Yeah, you just collapse. Now, so this is a max assist. Now, we can reduce the amount if the patient has a greater degree of standing tolerance, a greater degree of trunk control. We just start to remove the aid and have them do it for themselves, okay, slowly. And the way that we do that is through the digital displays, right? We document where we are. We're at what height of the table? 27.9 inches. Right? We document the degrees of the angles, and we go, okay, we're not going to give you that kind of support next week. Right? So what we see patients do is they start to get comfortable with the mat. They know exactly what to expect. You stood me yesterday, okay, let's do it again today. So we slowly decrease the amount of assistance we give them, and that's how we achieve goals, right? So now, we're gonna, John's fatigued, I can tell.
It was a tough workout.
It was tough. Okay, go ahead and sit down. So now, we do sit to stand in a safe environment because it's harder for a patient to stand than it is to walk, right? So we get them used to building those muscle groups that they're going to need in order to stand up. Now, once they've stood up, normally you're gonna go, okay, John, here's the walker, take a few steps, right? If they're capable of doing that. Well, what we've decided to do is to say, you know what, we're not going to take you to the parallel bars. Oh, okay, okay, there we go, sorry. I kind of fast forwarded for a minute. By the way, folks, this is the knee blocker, okay? For a patient who's got good trunk control, doesn't need that kind of support, you can use the knee blocker. So, you remember the first phones? You know, the brick phone, wasn't it great, you know? This big gray thing, you just, what did it do? It was a phone, that's all it was. And everybody thought it was great. Then we progressed to the flip phone. Remember the flip phones? You flip it up, the antenna, the whole 9 yards. Right, so that's innovation, from brick to flip. Now to my BlackBerry, right? I've got a BlackBerry. The BlackBerry has a whole bunch of applications. But I didn't know how to use all the applications when I first got it. I kind of discovered using it every day, trying something new. It's the same thing with this product. You've got to try to discover what it does every day. The more you use it, the more comfortable you get with it, the more comfortable the patients will get to it. Okay, so now we've got the parallel bar attachment. And what this does is, now that the patient's comfortable with how this is operated, they're going to be comfortable with the parallel bars. They know how the seat works. They know how the table raises. They've become used to the equipment because this is what we use with them every day, every week. Now you're ready to walk, John, right? Hold on.
It's almost a miracle.
It's almost a miracle. So we're going to give you a little help to get into the standing position if you need it, right? So there we go. Once we get you in a standing position, we'll raise the table so that the parallel bars will be at the correct height for his reach. Once we get the correct height for his reach, we're going to go ahead and tighten down on the end. Okay, there we go. Now he can go ahead and take his first few steps. Now if we have any idea that he's not going to be able to make that, and he's got to sit down, we have a safety seat. The safety seat now is simply inserted there we go. It's simply inserted, and John just sits down and takes a rest break, right? Because normally if you're in the parallel bars, you're going to be walking the patient with a wheelchair, right, if they have to take a rest break. So we go, John, how's that feeling so far? You in any pain or anything at all?
Need another drink.
Okay, well, just in a few minutes, okay. And then when John's ready, patient's ready to go, we say, come on, let's stand up. I'm going to have a wheelchair right here, and when he gets to the end, I'm going to do a pivot transfer right into the wheelchair. And then, depending on whether or not you're exhausted today, or whether I think you could do this again, or whether I want you to walk backwards, okay, it's all done in a very safe, controlled environment. You know, it's just, okay, so,
I got better.
Yeah, now, now as you can see, it'll tolerate John's weight. John, you can do that again. Okay, there you go. It'll tolerate a, you know, couple.
150 pounds.
Okay, 150 pounds, no problem. No problem. So when you're done now, simply loosen the end. It runs free. You go ahead and lower the table. Lower the seat while the patient's comfortably resting. Remove the parallel bars. You can put them in their stowed position behind the table, or you can hang them on the wall, or you can, you know, whatever's convenient for your therapy gym. We just felt that it was important that this be self-contained and not take up a footprint larger than the mat surface itself. So you never have to take up more than, in this case, 4x7, or in our larger version, which is a 4-column table, 1,000-pound lifting capacity, is a 4x8. You know, we work really, really hard. We've been working hard, actually 24/7 for 3 years. And, you know, sometimes you run into a brick wall and you go, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I just got to tell you, if you have an idea that you believe in, don't ever give up. That's number one. Don't ever give up, no matter who tells you you can't do it, who tells you they don't believe in it, they don't like it, they don't care for it. Go with your gut and just stay at it. The second thing is because of all the hard work that we've put in, when we're able to see the expressions on patients' faces, it makes it all worthwhile. So at the end of the day, it's all about the people. It's all about restoring hope in people. That is worth more than anything. And that's what keeps us going and keeps us driving on. So my encouragement to you, if you're an entrepreneur, you have an idea, you know what, protect your intellectual property for sure. Okay, take all the steps to protect yourself. But at the end of the day, continue to pursue it, because that's what made this country great, right? Because we're innovators. We look to technology. And I just encourage you to continue to do that and persevere. So, and I just want to thank everyone for coming out on this cool afternoon. It's unusually cool in Kentucky this time of year. But thank you so much for coming out. Love to meet each and every one of you. If I haven't spoken to you yet, please come up to me, and would love to talk to you, and just anything I can do, any questions I can answer for you, I'd be happy to do so.